Well, welcome back to the podcast, Pastors on Porn. And in this podcast, we talk about issues that relate to those in ministry and those who are also struggling around unmanageable sexual behaviors, things in particular such as porn. Hence the name of the podcast, Pastors on Porn. And there's three things that are true of me if you haven't been listening to these podcasts. Number one, I am somebody who's pastored and led people spiritually for over 30 years now. But I'm also somebody who has struggled with sexual issues, especially in the area of porn. Hopefully that gives me a bit of a platform to talk to you, or there's a bit of an affinity, and perhaps I can say some things to people who are in that unique position. I guess another purpose I want to use this podcast for is, I've taught the Bible for over 30 years, so I guess it's safe to say that I know my way around the Bible fairly well. I'm not a biblical scholar. I don't hold a candle to N.T. Wright or people like that. I read them, but they're much smarter than me. But again, I do know the Bible fairly well, and one thing that I want to use this podcast for is to dive into biblical teaching that is really undergirds my understanding of faith and truth, especially as it relates to our sexual struggles. I do have a twin podcast called Finding Traction, and that is far more generic because I work with people from all sorts of faith backgrounds or people with no faith backgrounds. But in this podcast, I guess I feel a lot more free to go down the Bible rabbit hole, recognizing that if you're listening to a podcast called Pastors on Porn, you probably don't have too great of an allergy to overtly Christian themes and topics. So that's where I want to go today. Now, let me preview this topic, presence versus power, by saying this. I have been recently troubled by the ongoing presence of porn temptations in my life. I've been free from viewing porn now for a number of years, but rarely a week goes by or rarely a few days go by where I don't feel the thought or the pull to look at porn, even for a little bit, just a little bit, and that presence, that pull bothers me. There's a part of me, and sometimes I have this conversation to myself. Shouldn't my brain be totally rewired at this point? Shouldn't the allure of porn be a thing of the past? Shouldn't I be past hearing it call out to me? So the presence of porn has, in that sense, has been bothering me. I'm just keeping it real with you. Now, I want to just clarify that I'm referring to that's what I mean by presence. I don't mean an ongoing practice of looking at porn where I'm actively and intentionally engaging in things that I know God, that are against God's call for my life. I hopefully never become comfortable with that. I'm talking about the mere presence, the mere temptation, the mere siren call, its continual siren call to me in my life. Sometimes I feel like porn is a bit like a stray dog, that maybe, in the past I gave it some of my lunch. And now every time I walk to school, this stray dog follows me hoping for some of my lunch, because I fed it in the past. Maybe another example I've used, at times it feels like I have a backroom committee in some part of my brain. This committee is like a brainstorming committee that they get together and say, okay, how can we get Vern back into porn? What ideas will entice him, engage him? And they get together and they have a brainstorming committee and they send out a messenger with a note saying, hey, Vern, have you thought of this or try this? And I take one look at it and go, not interested, or no, or I give it back and the messenger goes back to the committee room and they go, okay, well, that one didn't work. Let's give it a couple days and maybe we'll come up with a better idea, sort of thing. That's what I mean by the presence of porn. it bothers me. I'm going, why does that still take place? Perhaps it's because I'm still a broken and flawed and sinful person at one level, or at many levels, perhaps. But no, not just perhaps. So that's what I mean. And that's kind of sets the stage for this question I've been having around this ongoing, what I call the presence of porn. But here's what I want to give you as an idea today. Even if sin's presence or porn's presence will always be somewhere on the radar of my life, the power of porn, the power of sin has been broken. Even though sin's presence may be there, its power has been broken. And for me, that's a distinction that I want to play with today, and it has been a super helpful distinction as I've been thinking about recently. Now, we know that the Christian message promises us that the death of Jesus, it broke in the broadest sense the power of sin and death over our life. So on a micro scale, can I believe that Christ on the cross broke the power of porn on my life? What's more, can I believe that the infusion of God's Spirit into my life, can that add an entirely different power dynamic that I can now engage with? So it's not only that perhaps the power of sin or the power of porn has been broken, but I now have an entirely new power source. To quote a paraphrase of Romans 8:9, I think this is, I forget which paraphrase this was from. This is what it said: the power of sin and death have been eclipsed by the power of the Spirit. So, I have really been playing the last few days. I was thinking about that. What does it mean? Okay, the presence of porn, the presence of sin may still be calling out to me at times, but what does it mean if the power of it has been broken? Well, here's a few things that have been working for me, or why that's been a helpful distinction. Number one, it helps me be realistic, right? There is such a thing as brain chemistry. There is such a thing as pathways in my brain that still fire at times. You may think, well, the idea that porn still calls out to you, if a number of years into this, that's a depressing thought. But I guess I realize if that's normal, and everybody has a struggle with things that are from their past, I guess I just know mine. I mean, you can't fool me as to what those things, what those siren calls are for me. So I guess for me, it makes me realistic, and it makes me go, I guess I'm just human. The second thing is it also keeps me in a posture of being dependent. I think sometimes that what I wrestle with feels like what Paul described, whether it was this or not for him, a thorn in the flesh. In God's power, my weakness is made perfect. In my weakness, I can experience His power, His strength. So it makes me, in that way, I guess it makes me take a posture of humility. The next one is most importantly, if I really begin to engage with the idea that the power of sin, the power of porn has been broken over me, for me, that's an incredibly hopeful thought. Even if I'm still struggling, now you got to hear this because everyone who is listening to this at different points in their recovery, even if you are still struggling with removing its active presence from your life, if you know the power of it has been broken, that helps me. It gives me the hopeful thought, I am fighting a battle, but I'm fighting a winning battle. In fact, a battle that has already been won. Listen to some of these encouraging verses. 1 John 2:13. I'm writing to you, fathers, because you know Him who is from the beginning. I am writing to you, young men, because you have overcome the evil one. You have overcome. I like the past tense there. That's hopeful. 1 John 4:4, you, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. Well, who is the one who is in us? It's God's Holy Spirit, as opposed to the spirit of the world. 1 John 5:4-5, for everyone born of God overcomes the world. That's more of a ongoing present sense, isn't it? For everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. So, for me, that's just incredibly hopeful. I have overcome, and I am overcoming, if the power of sin has been broken. For me, that's hopeful. And I guess as I begin to engage with that, it can make me strong. Or I guess I can begin to recognize that I am stronger than I have previously realized. In other words, I can begin to power up in my faith. What do I mean by powering up? Well, here's an example. Recently, I substitute teach at high school a couple days a week, and my morning reading was this verse: "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power." I've read that verse hundreds of times, Ephesians 6:10, and there's something about it that morning that really engaged me. And I actually was going into a tough school. It was a middle school. It was one of the tougher middle schools in the district, and it was a hard day. But I felt like that day I was walking in wearing a cape. Finally be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. That day, now it doesn't happen every day, but I had a real sense of powering up that day. Or this verse, 2 Timothy 1:7, another verse, a common verse that's often quoted. For the Spirit of God does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So, let me just summarize here. So, first of all, I've said even though sin still can nibble around the presence of my life and call out to me, and its brain synapses still go off, and I still at times remember things I've seen, and all of those things still walk around with me like a stray dog, hoping to take my present day lunch, the power of sin has been broken. And now, as I learn to power up in the Holy Spirit, I can begin to usher it from my life. Okay, let's play the cynic here for a second. Vern, this is all fine. You don't understand my struggles. I know the Bible. I know these verses. But you don't know how hard it is for me to apply this to my life. You say something like, the power of sin, the power of porn has been broken. But let me tell you, in my life, porn still has a huge power over my life. Sometimes I think, as I listen to some Christian teachers, they almost remind me sometimes of Zen masters. I know this is seriously mixing our metaphors, and it's almost like if you would just believe this, all of a sudden all your struggles would go away. And so you might think I'm trying to get you to, if you just magically believe that the power of sin has been broken, all of a sudden you will wake up a brand new person, and with this brand new truth, you will walk like you've never walked before. I don't traffic in that kind of it's more Zen to me than it is Christian theology. But it is true. The power of sin has been broken in your life. It's lost its power. And if this is true, and on top of that, you have a brand new, incredible power supply, the Holy Spirit at the ready, then on a daily basis, you need to learn to posture yourself to partner with God and walk with others in learning to walk these truths out in your life. See, walking free from sin, walking free from porn is not an automatic thing. I don't buy theology that says it's all God. I also don't buy theology that says it's all you. It's a partnership. And this is where I coach guys, guys that are Christians, for example. I can get into this more specifically, but I coach guys at all different levels of journeys. But where I coach guys who want to take a specifically Christian path in terms of this is the way we do it. This is the way we partner with God. Number one, we need to make a practice of coming into the light, learning to be truthful, learning to face our shame directly in the face and walk towards it. And we learn to tell the truth. That's number one, coming into the light. Number two, we learn a practice of staying in the light. When we blow it, when we mess up, when we look at porn, when we edge, when we do things we're not proud of, we learn the practice of being honest and vulnerable with one another. Number three, we learn to take our vitamins, or as I think the British call vitamins. For example, right now it's the wintertime in a northern climate. Even if you're out in the sun, apparently, there's no vitamin D to be had, even if you're out walking where we live up north. My son told me that. Fun fact. So I need to take multivitamins. You need to take vitamin D up here. So what are the vitamins that we do? They're the things that remind us, they're the active commitments that we take every day to remain strong and healthy. Number four, we teach guys to be alert. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." Well, what does that mean to be alert? Well, part of being alert is we help guys take their environment seriously. I'm going to do a whole podcast on environmental engineering on the Finding Traction one, where I really go into this. But it's kind of like young moms, for example. When we were young parents, my wife was much better at this than I was. They're always, the kids are playing on the floor if they go visiting somebody, and young moms are always looking, well, what is also on the floor that our young child could swallow and choke on? You're smart, you're healthy. In this area, you create environments that are conducive to recovery. And number four is you partner with other people along the way so you're not overwhelmed when something like porn calls out to you. You're around other people. Other people can cause you to stand. It's like it says in Hebrews 3. It says, encourage one another daily, as long as it's called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. It's deceitful. Sin is deceitful. Porn is deceitful. It promises us things. It lies to us. But if we're not engaged with other people and walking through this at an honest, humble level, eventually its lies, its promises will overwhelm you. So when I say the power of sin, the power of porn has been broken in your life, I don't mean that automatically you will live in that reality. You need to grow into it. Grow into the truth of what that is for you. And as you do that, you will realize that you are stronger than you realize because of God's internal spirit. You are stronger because you've learned to stand with other brothers and sisters. And although you still may hear the barking dog, the presence of porn calling out to you, you will slowly but surely see its power broken in your life, since it already has been broken. So, till next time, God bless. We'll see you then.